NC State is back home for the first time in nearly a month. Hi everyone, Noah Fleischman here, host of the Wolfpacker Show, presented by the Wolfpacker.com. We cover NC State for the On3 network. The Wolfpack hasn't been home since October 4th when it beat Campbell 56 to 10. After a few weeks away, it is back in Raleigh. The State Fair took over the fairgrounds, and that means NC State's got to hit the road. They went to Notre Dame, they went to Pitt, they had a bye week in between those two games. The Pack is looking to snap a two-game losing streak and looking to snap a four-game losing streak against FBS competition as it hosts Georgia Tech on Saturday. The Yellow Jackets, number 8 team in the country. It's going to be a tough, tough task to do so in one of, the biggest games of the season for NC State, setting at 4-4, looking to get back in the win column against a quality competition in the Yellow Jackets. But before we dive into Georgia Tech, let's quickly thank our sponsor, BetMGM. As you know, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using their lines to make our picks. We have special offers for our listeners each week. When you join BetMGM, you access a variety of parlay selection features like same game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here is how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign in using bonus code ON3. That's ON and the number 3. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, any sport, anytime. You'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 and over. Only U.S. promotional offers are not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the United States. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 867-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. In partnership with the Kansas Crossing Casino Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. The Wolfpack back at Carter Finley Stadium coming up on Saturday night. Big time game for the Pack after coming off a loss at Pitt where it did score 34 points but gave up 53 as the Panthers threw for over 400 yards over a decimated secondary the Wolfpack has, which couldn't stop the pass basically the entire game. That was the story in Pittsburgh, and NC State's now moving on. It had a players only meeting on Sunday, looking to right the ship this week. You can read more about that players only meeting on the Wolfpacker.com. We've got all of the intel and juice out of that, so make sure you check it out, Wolfpacker.com. The Pack hosting Georgia Tech this weekend. And to catch up about the Yellow Jackets, led by star quarterback Haynes King, we bring on Kelly Quinlan from Jackets Online, a part of the On3 network. Here is our conversation with Kelly. We're joined by Kelly Quinlan, who covers Georgia Tech for the On3 network. Kelly, thanks for joining us.
Hey, happy to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you hopping on to talk a little Georgia Tech as NC State hosts the Yellow Jackets this weekend. A top 10 team coming into Raleigh the first time this year. They'll face the top 10 team. And Kelly, what's just your overall takeaway from the first 8 games so far that Georgia Tech has played?
They have a knack for winning, and willing the team to win, even when they have their C or D game, like the Wake Forest game. They managed to win, and they've been kind of handling the games they're supposed to, and the tougher games they are able to kind of chip away and pull away in the fourth quarter. The Duke game was like that a few weeks ago in Durham. Obviously, the Wake Forest game was funky, but ended that way. And yeah, they just Haynes King kind of wills them to win, and that's how it's been this year.
Speaking of Haynes King, he's a guy who seems like anytime he starts limping, he starts actually playing better on the field. What have you been impressed with so far this year with him?
Right, he calls that his gangster limp. Once he has the gangster limp, then the other team's in trouble, is the joke. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like he kind of needs like a little bit of adversity almost to get going. It's a weird dynamic. They've had a lot of strange first quarters. Last week, They fumble on the opening drive on the second play of the game, and then Syracuse took the ball on the first carry to the one, like a 41-yard run, and then they held them to a field goal. It's been a very strange season for them. They've been really good in red zone defense, getting turnovers in the red zone. They had one the previous week against Duke that kind of shifted the entire momentum of that game with a like 95-yard touchdown return. Um, they it seems like things are aligning for them, but the Tech fans always will point to they're kind of waiting for the Charlie Brown, Lucy, like the football to get pulled away moment. Um, the big talk this week was the 2002 NC State Georgia Tech game when NC State was, I guess, in the top 10 or whatever, and with Philip Rivers and Georgia Tech came in and upset them, and I'm like, that was 23 years ago. Like, I was like, I didn't even know about that until they brought it up. So like, I don't think that most of these kids weren't born yet that are playing in the game. Like, really has no bearing on it other than the fans thinking about it, or like maybe NC State fans wanting some revenge for that moment. I don't, I, it's been a weird season. Like, and I think everyone's just kind of waiting to see what the moment is where maybe things go sideways, but they seem to just kind of keep on clicking no matter how weird the game starts. They've managed to win.
Definitely, yeah. That one, NC State, I believe, was 9-0 going into that game, and Georgia Tech was able to win. Georgia Tech's 8-0, coming in as the number 8 team in the country. So some NC State fans, I think, will be hoping for the opposite effect to happen this weekend. But, when you look at Haynes King, what makes him such a good runner as a quarterback?
He's unafraid of contact, and that changed. He really didn't run his first year in 23 here. He didn't start really running the ball until the second half of that season. That's when the offense really started to get going, and they kind of found their identity. And he's kind of built on it each year, cutting down on the turnovers as well. The big thing with him is he has good breakaway speed, and a lot of people kind of underestimate that. So if he gets to the second level, he kind of just hits a gear and he's gone. And that's what makes him so dangerous. They have so many different play actions, and it's all off the same motions and variations. They have, three or four variations on the same motion. And so it gets the defense head spinning, and they're starting to worry about the play action, or they're worried about this or that or the fake pitch. And he just goes. And every once in a while, he will pitch it or he'll shovel pass or whatever. And just the threat of that, it frees up so much of his runs. And if you spy him, then they just throw the ball. So like last week, Syracuse loaded the box, so they just throw over the top of them. People forget he was a guy who could throw for 300 yards every week, which he did his first season at Georgia Tech. They think of him as this runner, but he's not just a runner. He can throw the football just fine down the field. Unlike last year when these two teams played and Haynes wasn't able to throw a football physically with his shoulder. So yeah, it's been an interesting season to watch him, and then obviously he's got the Heisman hype now too.
No, see, as you talk about throwing the ball, NC State, their secondary has struggled to defend throwing the ball. Pitt threw for over 400 yards last week. Haynes King, I mean, he's what, thrown for almost 1,500 yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 pick, only 4 sacks. Do you think they would try to throw the ball a little bit more, trying to exploit a defense that can't defend the pass at all?
Yeah, I mean they've had geared up plays that he's missed on early. There's been three or four plays on the first play of the drive, on the opening drive of the game in the script, where they've had open play action passes downfield and just overthrow. They've hit on a few of them, but he can throw it vertical. Last week he was at 304, I think, and then just under 100 yards rushing. He's going to get you 250 to 300 passing and around 100 running, 80 to 100. And if that's their recipe, if he does that, they'll win. And he can push it vertically. They have really good receivers. They have one of the better, I think, across 1 to 6. The first two deep is as good probably as anyone in the conference. From 1 to 6. And so I think that they're really attacking. They played a true freshman who barely played last week, Jordan Allen, and he went off in the game against Syracuse. Like they got a lot of weapons, and they're good at getting the ball in their guys in the playmakers' hands. That's what makes Haynes so efficient too. Like last week, he threw a screen that went 37 yards for a touchdown. Like they can do that or they can throw it vertically. So I like the different weapons. That part of it's not a great matchup. I'm looking at a more of a concern of how big of a shootout this turns into because Georgia Tech is playing kind of a bend but don't break defense.
Yeah, could be a high scoring game between these two offenses. You mentioned Haynes King. You mentioned the wide receivers being good. Who are some other guys that NC State fans should be, looking out for this weekend when he decides to throw the ball?
Isaiah Canyon's been like his biggest kind of go-to guy to go catch the football. Malik Rutherford's been hurt, but I expect he might be able to play again this week. He was a starting slot. He's been their leading pass catcher the last couple of seasons. Eric Rivers is the guy they got from FIU, who was an All-American last year. Really dynamic. Dean Patterson, who caught the 37-yard touchdown, was his teammate at FIU. The two of them were all conference players. Dean comes off the bench here and is really good. Bailey Stockton's probably their other sure hand guy in the slot, and then they use Malachi Hosley and Jamal Haynes out of the backfield as well. And then the tight ends have gotten really involved in the offense the last couple of weeks. Josh Beetham caught a pair of touchdowns last week, all set up off their play action game, and they'll use him, Luke Harpering, Brett Seither, JT Byrne. They have four tight ends. They're all comfortable throwing the football too. So they do a good job of mixing up their weapons and it makes you have to defend the whole field. And between that and the and Haynes's running ability and then the running backs that makes them so dangerous.
Definitely. A lot of points could be scored this weekend. You mentioned the defense and bend did not break. I mean, this is a team that's played some high scoring games already this season. What do you expect from them, after coming off a game where they held Syracuse to 16 points?
Yeah, and the last touchdown wasn't, particularly a great series defensively for them. They were holding them in check pretty well. They held Duke in check in the second half the week before. They seem to take a little bit of time to get going, and then once they get going, it kind of just they get confidence. And as the offense plays better, that tends to get the defense going for whatever reason. They're not elite. They have a lot of injuries in the secondary right now, at corner and a little banged up at safety. And so it'll be interesting to see how they approach that last week. That they kind of got bit a few times on that. They play a little bit soft in coverage, try to keep things in front of them. But what happens is they stiffen in the red area, as Brent Key calls it. And once you get down there and the field shrinks, then they really kind of get after it. They've found a little bit more of a pass rush lately. Early in the season, they got bit on the run, and that's where, like, I think Hollywood might have a good game for, but they kind of just adjust to that as the game goes along. They've done a good job of, yeah, we know he's going to get this many yards, but we're not going to let him break one, right? And so that's, I think, what the game comes down to. If you're NC State, you have to be able to be multiple. And I think they got to run Bailey too. And that seems to give them the biggest problem is when they have a team that can run the football and a running quarterback that can push it a little bit downfield. Like if that seems to be the magic recipe to give them the biggest troubles they had. That was the issue they had at like, Wake Forest with Robbie Ashford or some of the other games this season when they've had a mobile quarterback that's given them more trouble. The Colorado game, the first game of the season. Even Klubnik ran decently on them. So, I think if you're NC State, that's what I'm pushing is get your quarterback run, roll him out, move him around, and then continue to get Hollywood his carries. And I think that's your sort of recipe to move the football. It just gets interesting when you get into the red zone and they're so much better there. But they don't have like that eraser linebacker guy that will go take out the quarterback or the running back down, chase him down in the open field super easily. That's sort of one piece that I think's missing right now for them.
Definitely. NC State getting to the red zone's been a problem. They've got one trip there in the last 2 weeks combined. So not the best thing in the world for NC State. So while they may be able to get there this time, we'll see if they can capitalize. Before I let you go, Kelly, what's the biggest thing Georgia Tech needs to focus on to be able to leave Raleigh with a win and keep their undefeated record intact?
I think his offensive efficiency. When they're efficient offensively, they don't get behind schedule with false starts, penalties, negative plays on first downs. They tend to move the ball really easily down the field. It seems like the drives where they stall out and have to punt are always usually they'll get a first down or early in the set of downs. They'll have some sort of penalty or, like a 3 yard loss on a run or something. And that's what seems to really kind of throw them off when they get behind the sticks. if they stay ahead of the sticks, that's when they seem to be really hard to stop. So I would say that's the area. King's done a good job protecting the football this year. Um, those are the things that tend to win the game. And then obviously the defense getting enough stops in key situations. They were good on third down the last couple of weeks, keeping that up. That'll be the key. But as I tell Tech fans every week, this is a team that's going to get everybody's best shot every week. Everyone's looking to upset the big team, and you got a coach on a hot seat at NC State. The kids are going to be fired up to play this game. This should be a good crowd on a Saturday night. This is going to be a tough game. All of them I think here out are tough games for Georgia Tech because everyone wants to spoil somebody's season.
Definitely sold out crowd at Carter Finley Stadium. Dave Doran is 1-11 against top 10 teams in his career at NC State. He's looking to make it 2-11 against Georgia Tech. Well, I appreciate you hopping on, Kelly.
No problem. Thanks, Noah.
Special thanks to Kelly for hopping on the show, giving us a preview of what to expect from the Yellow Jackets on Saturday night. Before I give you my score prediction, let's take a couple keys to the game for the Wolfpack, and I think it starts with stopping the run. Georgia Tech is one of the best rushing attacks in the conference, number two with 229 yards on the ground a game. NC State otherwise has the 10th worst or 10th best unit against the run in the conference, allowing 130 yards. So it's all going to come down to this. Haynes King, he's one of the top leading rushers in the conference as a quarterback. He's got over 600 yards on the ground. So we'll see what happens. NC State's been up and down in defending the run this year. Gave up 30 yards to East Carolina in week one, but it's given up more than 200 twice. I think if it can stop Georgia Tech, keep it under 100 yards rushing, the Pack has a chance to pull off a top 10 upset. But if Georgia Tech gets over 200 yards, I think this could be a long night for the Pack defense. Second key to the game, be smart with the football. Georgia Tech is not a defense that forces a lot of turnovers. It only has 2 interceptions, which is second to last in the ACC, and they've only forced 6 turnovers. If NC State wants to win this game, it needs to move the ball, which it's something it's struggled in all year. Or not all year, but really the last 2 games. In these last 2 games, NC State's been in the red zone just once, and that was in the last minute of the game at Pitt last weekend. And Notre Dame, it didn't even get to the red zone for the first time in 14 years. If NC State takes care of the football, no interceptions, no fumbles, it can move the ball down the field. It's got a chance to win this game. This isn't a crazy game. The line is 5.5 points, thanks to our friends at BetMGM, and it's a chance that NC State has to win the game. The third key to the game, I think, is getting off the field on third down. Georgia Tech is the second best third down offense in the league at 50% conversion, and NC State is second to last on defensively, allowing 43.8% conversions. That's a problem. And if the defense doesn't stop Georgia Tech on third down, the Yellow Jackets will eat clock and move the ball downfield, looking to end their drives in the end zone. If they can get off the field on third down, forcing punts on a consistent basis, it might have a chance to win. Whoever wins this third down battle, though, I think wins the game. So that is the stat to watch moving forward. Does NC State cover a 5.5 point spread? I think they do. I think they do. People might call me crazy. This is a team that is 4-4, reeling, hasn't really shown that it can compete with the top 10 team in the last 4 weeks. But I think this is a chance for NC State to right the ship. They need something good to happen to them. Injuries have caused problems. Inconsistent play has caused problems. But I think there's a chance they can keep this 5.5 point game. Do they win though? Do they win? I don't know. My final score prediction is 33-28, Georgia Tech. So NC State covers, doesn't quite get over the hump and win the game. I do think this is a close game though. I think the Wolfpack can try to keep up with this offense. If it shows what it has last 2 weeks, then it could get ugly fast. It could be another 53-34 game like we saw last week at Pitt. But I'm gonna go with this defense is gonna try to keep its offense in the game as much as possible. So give me a 33-28 game on the scoreboard for Georgia Tech. But I do think there's a chance NC State comes out with the upset. It's slim, and ESPN gives about a 20% chance of happening, but I think it's a possibility. We'll check back on that on Saturday night. Kickoff at 7:30 on ESPN2. You can follow all of our coverage on thewolfpacker.com. And we'll be back next week to break it down. Going to the bye week. NC State basketball season right around the corner. Men open up on Monday night against North Carolina Central. Women open Tuesday afternoon in Greensboro in a top 10 showdown with Tennessee. Going to be a fun week next week. We'll break down all the basketball action. We'll break down the football action next week on the Wolfpacker Show. And for now, I appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.